Hey folks, Derek Wetmore here, 1500 ESPN's Twins analyst. I'm going to do just a Q&A video for the 7th inning, and I'm starting a second late here, so maybe I'll go a titch longer than that. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments. I am here to answer every question that you guys have. I want to share the link out on Twitter here so we can get more friends to come join in. I know the big question that a lot of people are going to ask is, are the Twins going to the postseason? And obviously we don't know that answer, but we can talk about that a little bit today and what their chances are and how they look different today than they did, probably a week ago. So if you bear with me a quick second, I'm going to share the link and then I'll get to your questions. Fire away. Leave them in the comments. I'll be happy to get to as many as I can today. Q&A. Okay, so as we get this video started, I just pulled up a Fangraphs projection, which obviously there aren't 1,000 runs of the rest of this season, so it's not really it's not really informative if they say, well, the Red Sox have let's find out what their percentage is. Their playoff projection is like, what is it, 94% it looks like? Maybe it's 99%. I guess they've built a pretty big lead. My point is that it's not really informative to say that a team that's 66-50 right now has a 95, 90+% chance of making the postseason, because it's binary. They either make the postseason or they don't. But it is helpful to know, is it really likely that they're going to make it, or are they on the outside looking in right now? The Twins, obviously, despite holding the second wild card there for a minute, I think you'd have to consider them one of the teams on the outside looking in. You just look at the rest of baseball, say whatever you want about their easy schedule the rest of the season. I mean, they traded away a starting pitcher, and they traded away a closer. Now, what's the difference between Brandon Kinsler and Matt Belisle et al.? Well, so far it's been one win. We don't know what it'll be the rest of the season. But in theory, if you're looking at wins above replacement, you're maybe talking one win. Not a significant difference to get rid of a guy like Brandon Kinsler. But what we've seen already is if you lose the guy at the back end, as they're stretching in Detroit, you lose the guy at the back end, it changes the whole rest of the bullpen because of chaining. Well, Matt Belisle or Taylor Rogers or fill in the blank has to fill in the 9th inning, then somebody else has to slide up and fill in the 8th inning, somebody else slides up to fill in the 6th inning, and I think you can count on a guy like Trevor Hildenberger, but you don't know that for sure. I mean, he's unproven. And I don't know. I just think that the Twins taking a bad bullpen and making it worse really hurts their chances for playing baseball, meaningful baseball anyways, in October. Is there a chance? Yeah, there's absolutely a chance, as evidenced by the fact that they held the second wild card spot, I think even coming into the day or after the game yesterday, for sure. But I'm looking at Fangraphs right here. It gives them a 1.6% chance of winning the division. I talked to a couple players in the Twins clubhouse this week, and they said, last week on their homestand, they said, 2 months, and all we got to make up is, this number of games. You've seen that in baseball before, haven't you? And while I have, it's true, I think you'd rather be the team in the driver's seat there. You'd rather be the Cleveland Indians. Fangraphs is giving them a 96% chance of winning the division, despite the fact that it's only something like 4.5 games. Maybe it's 5 games as we're recording this video. So it's not a very definitive answer to the question, but since I didn't see any questions in the comments, I figured I'd throw my hat into the ring there. Fangraphs does give them a 16% chance to have a wild card spot, so call it like 17, 18% chance of making the playoffs. I don't know, that sounds about right to me. If anything, I would have said a week ago, that's way high. They do not have an 18% chance. But then you go ahead and win 6 in a row. You should win 7 in a row. Kind of blew that ball game yesterday in Detroit. You should win enough games the rest of the season to secure a playoff spot. I don't think that it's very likely, but I'm the non-zero chance guy, so I would say the Twins do have a chance to play baseball in October. It's just going to be an uphill climb. Like you saw today, Sunday's baseball game, we don't know whether they're going to win or lose this, but when Irvin Santana pitches or Jose Barrios pitches, you're really banking on winning those games because the rest of the rotation is just an unknown. I mean, Bartolo's obviously been great, better than I think you should have expected. Will that keep up? I don't know. It's hard to say. Adalberto Mejia, obviously he just hit the disabled list, but despite the numbers looking fairly good for him recently, he's been disappointing, I think, personally. You know, if you hold a team to a run or 2 runs and you're not giving up many base runners, you should finish the 5th inning. And Mejia has just not really been able to go deep in many games. It seems like they don't trust him the 3rd time through the order. So, to me, I look for when a manager, what he does to a pitcher. If a guy's under duress, you could see him getting pulled. If a guy's not under duress, how does the manager treat him? And I think given the way they've treated Mejia the last, month or maybe 6 weeks, I question how much they trust him 3rd time through the order against any opponent, because you've seen him with these short starts. And I don't think it's a pitch count. I don't think it's an innings limit. I think they just think they'll get better work out of the bullpen than sticking with Mejia. So anyway, that's a long way of saying you made your rotation worse. Granted, you didn't lose anybody you didn't have at the beginning of the season when you traded Jaime Garcia. But you make the Jaime Garcia trade with the Braves knowing that you have to augment your starting staff, and then you make it weaker by going to make the trade with the Yankees. Look, I don't have any problem with the way the Twins front office treated the trade deadline. I think loading up on pitching prospects is probably the smart thing to do. But I do think that to say, well, this is still pretty much the same team as it was before the trade deadline, therefore it can go on a run and the Twins can for sure continue to surprise people and be playing in October. I think that's a little bit faulty. I think I don't have as much confidence in the current Twins team for the final 6-7 weeks as I would have a month before the trade deadline. I think their playoff percentage chances have gone down, as is reflected in that Fangraphs playoff probability that I was telling you earlier. Anyways, that's enough out of me on if the Twins will go to October or not. After all, I said at the beginning of this video, I don't know. I have no idea if they'll go to the postseason or not. I just don't think it's very likely. With all that being said, let's get to some questions. I see I'm starting to fill up the comment section here. Jonathan Driscoll asks, will Sano see a fastball again? It's a good question. I'm actually working on a 5 thoughts column here. I paused it to do this Q&A video here in the 7th inning. Brian Dozier got a fastball. Brian Dozier hit a fastball out of the park. Miguel Sano doesn't get as many fastballs, and you can see why. He's chasing a little more pitches lately. He doesn't seem to have that same sort of balanced, forceful swing that you saw from him at the beginning of the year when he was just crushing everything. He was drawing walks. Yes, he was striking out, but when he did make contact, he was pulverizing baseballs. I get why you wouldn't throw him a fastball. And so one of the thoughts in my column is kind of like the different ways teams try to pitch around Brian Dozier and Miguel Sano, 2 of the best hitters, obviously, in the Twins lineup. So with Dozier, it's kind of interesting to me that you know he can hit that high fastball, and you're still going to try to sneak it by him every once in a while. Sano, I think it's indicative of the way he's swinging right now or the way he's tracking pitches that teams are getting him to expand his strike zone a little bit. They're getting him to chase the secondary stuff. They don't need to try to blow a fastball by him because they just don't seem to be falling behind in the count the way that they were earlier in the season. I don't have the numbers to back that up. That's just sort of my anecdotal observation of the last couple of weeks for Sano. So anyways, Jonathan, it's a good question. It's going to be in the column tomorrow just about Dozier. Here's the quick cookie stat for you. I was on baseballsavant.com. Dozier's got, 23 bombs this year? I think it's 23. And 19 of those are on fastballs. So that's what he feasts on. Other teams know that, and yet he still gets some fastballs. Now, the one from Matthew Boyd, wasn't a high fastball like Dozier loves to feast on, but I still, that's what struck me when Dozier hit the home runs. Oh, another fastball. Okay, interesting. I don't know. Jonathan, they have to give him fastballs every once in a while. It's just you're not going to give him a very high percentage. But that was true earlier in the year too. He was one of the hitters in baseball, for sure in the American League anyways, who was getting the lowest percentage of fastballs thrown his way. A quick aside before I answer the next question here. I don't think Jorge Polanco is a major league shortstop. Related to the play here with 2 outs in the 7th inning. I've been thinking that for a couple of weeks, and his bats started to come around, and that's a very good sign for the Twins. He makes some good defensive plays. You see him make the play up the middle. He'll turn some nice double plays with Dozier. He just doesn't do it consistently enough for me. That's a routine ground ball that needs to be an out, and Polanco can't convert it. Now we'll see if the Tigers cash in or not with 2 outs. Maybe Tyler Duffy still gets out of it here, but you got to make that play, and we've said that a lot with Polanco this year. I think it's one of the big questions I was trying to answer this year. Is Polanco a major league shortstop? And I think the answer is probably not. He's young, so he could learn, he could improve, he could mature, but you've just seen too many mistakes from him at shortstop, and he doesn't have the arm to overcome it like maybe a Miguel Sano does at third base. If he makes a little mistake, stay calm, cool, and fire a rocket over to first base. Polanco doesn't have the arm to make up for the questionable hands. So, anyways, nobody asked me that question, but that's my aside. Thanks for your Sano question, Jonathan. Andrew. Andrew says, I don't think until he proves to hit a slider or a curve. Judge is seeing the same thing in the second half. You must be talking about Sano. Yeah, it's interesting. And as Tori pointed out, though, so Judge and Sano are, quote-unquote, slumping here after the home run derby and all-star break. Meanwhile, Giancarlo Stanton's hitting every pitch he sees out over the fence. So, go figure. Yeah, thanks for your Sano chat, guys. Those are some good observations. Keep those coming. Dave says, now the Twins need a closer. JT Shagwa. Is he healthy? Is he pitching in the minors yet? I think if you need a closer that's on this roster that's not named Matt Belisle, you go to Taylor Rogers. And I think if Taylor Rogers isn't up for the task, you try Trevor Hildenberger. Also, another guy making his way back to the big leagues, maybe as soon as early this week. I think you could. This is kind of low-key flying under people's radar, but Glenn Perkins could be back on the Twins this week, as early as this week. I don't know for sure if it'll happen, but he's been throwing rehab, and he got to Double-A Chattanooga. I haven't seen his box score today, so I'll have to go check that, but I think that there's a non-zero chance that Glenn Perkins will be on the Twins this week. I don't think Shagwa's your closer answer, Dave. Luke. We will see them in October next year. Fair point. Yeah, I think you probably will. Is Glenn Perkins going to be able to help? Jonathan, good question. Sorry, I didn't see it before I started talking about Glenn Perkins. Well, there you go. There's your answer. Non-zero chance you'll see him again this month. What is it, August 13th? Still plenty of runway. Let's see, Dave. He let an 83-mile-an-hour changeup in the zone breeze by last night. Yeah, Sano's having a tough stretch at the plate. I think you're talking about the 9th inning, where the game was sort of on his shoulders and things fell apart, didn't go his way, and then Justin Upton happened. That happens. I mean, I try not to scrutinize any one at-bat, but I do think you're seeing some, I guess, unpleasant signs from Sano recently. He just hasn't been quite the same guy. In fact, Fangraphs author last week wrote, is Miguel Sano just struggling or is he hurt? And anytime you're questioning if a guy's numbers are bad because he's hurt, must mean his numbers are bad. He did get hit twice in the hand. I'm sure that's affecting him a little bit, but it's not so much the swing that's bothering me. It's the balance, it's the timing, it's the anticipation. It's the fact that he'll get a 3-1 pitch and it's hard to articulate into words. He's not in command of an at-bat the way that I think he was earlier this season, where guys would nibble, they'd get to 2-1, they wouldn't want to fall to 3-1, so they'd give him a fastball, and the big guy is sitting there waiting for it. He doesn't really drive at-bats in the same way right now. Now, that's anecdotal. I don't have the stats to say he's not driving at bats. But it's not as pretty for Sano right now. And there you go. Tyler Duffy does get out of it. He doesn't make the Twins pay for Jorge Polanco's misgivings at shortstop. Let's go through the commercial break. Let's get a couple more questions here. I see the comment section sort of filling up. I'll try and get through as many of these as I can. If I can't get to them, guys, I'm going to respond on my Facebook page. It'll just be a little bit later because I got to get going on my column here. Got to get that up and posted not by the end of the game, around the end of the game. Anyway, I'll be back on my Facebook page. If you're not already following me on Facebook, you should check that out. It's just Derek Wetmore MLB. Search that, and you'll find my my author page. We got plenty of Twins talk over there. Share some videos, share links to my columns. I'm always active on the comment section there, chit-chatting with visitors, so give that a look if you're not already. Mike says, is the bullpen close to being good to great next year without throwing big money to a pitcher or two? Looks like some decent young options. Yeah, I agree. I like Trevor Hildenberger. Nick Birdie obviously had the surgery, so he's out. Tyler J, you kind of don't know. Shagwa, you don't know. So injuries and attrition have really hurt what I think is kind of like the young core of the Twins bullpen, or who they're hoping would be a part of that core. So for me, honestly, this is a cop-out answer. Sorry, Mike, but too soon for me to say what their bullpen's going to look like next year. I don't know. My guess is that they probably need an arm, but I don't know that for sure. Buznitz has looked good at times. I like his fastball, but he's still learning with that curve. I don't think the breaking ball is quite where he wants it yet. So anyways, work in progress. We'll see what happens. Here's two big variables, really. Taylor Rogers and Ryan Presley. If Taylor Rogers is the guy he was for the first 3.5 months of the season, you got a nice little lefty in your bullpen. If Ryan Presley plays up to his stuff, all right, you've got a late inning option. But I don't know. I'm more confident in Rogers than I am in Presley right now, which is not what I would have said at the beginning of the season. But things have a tendency to change, and that's why I don't want to pick next year's bullpen. If you made me guess right now, I'd say you probably have to spend some money or flip a trade this winter to have a real strong bullpen, but I don't know. It's possible some people could surprise me. Joe Walter, how close is Perkins? Talked about that just a minute ago. If you missed that, just go back and watch it, but probably you asked me the question, and I just didn't see it yet. So there's my answer. Kenny, who would you like to see at shortstop next year? Vielma? Gordon? Well, I was high on Angel Vielma. I'm not sure I'm as high on him anymore. Nick Gordon, is he ready? I don't know, and I haven't seen him play defensively at shortstop. I've seen Vielma defensively at shortstop, and I like him. So I guess either one of those could make sense, but you also question, are you going to trust that as your solution? Just throw it over to a young guy and hope that on a playoff team, he's just ready to roll 650 plate appearances? I'm not sold. Adrianza's look good. I wouldn't count him out necessarily, but you also wonder for a guy who's turning, is he 28? Something like that. 28, 29. He's in his late 20s. He's not really a prospect anymore in the classic sense of the word. Light hitting, slick fielding, maybe you have to roll with that if you're the Twins. Try to get some offense out of it. I think Polanco will give you the offense. His bat's been real disappointing this year. But as I said partway through this video here, after watching him boot another ball in the 7th inning, I don't know that he's a major league shortstop. I'm very much not convinced that he's going to be able to play shortstop at this level consistently enough. So I guess the jury's still out, but he's made a bunch of misplays. He's obviously got a lot of errors. He's also had some balls hit to him at target field that were ruled base hits that, come on, anybody watching that game in Little League would have said, shortstop should have made that play. So I think his error total is probably low this year, and just in general, I'm not sure he's really fielded the position very well. Kenny, I don't think you asked that question if Polanco is having a good year. So, yeah, the fact that you're even asking it, you're right. I mean, that's a question that needs to be answered. I think that's a bad sign for the Twins. I think you were really hoping that Polanco might be your guy. Justin, we'll go rapid fire here, and then we're back for the 8th inning, so I got to get cracking on my column. Justin says they will make the wild card game. Have to fix the pitching on the fly to make a serious run. Good point, but how do you fix the pitching? Do you know that the starting staff's going to be solid? When's Mejia back? Is Hector Santiago coming back? What are you going to get from Kyle Gibson? Is this the real Bartolo Colon? There's a lot of questions for me to say that they're just going to be able to snap their fingers and fix the pitching. Robert Nelson, concerned about Barrios? No, not really. I thought Torrey made a good observation when he said that on the broadcast. Barrios' slider wasn't as sharp. He's got kind of two different breaking balls, the way I think about it. He's got sort of the curveball, and that can be a swing and a miss pitch. And then he's got the slider that's more like, it was more like horizontal movement and late break and sharp, and he didn't have that at all yesterday. So it's tough to go into battle without all your weapons, and I think that's sort of what you saw yesterday. Long term, not concerned about Barrios. I like him. He's impressed me this year. His competitiveness, his preparedness, his approach, his strikes, and his stuff. I mean, his stuff's always been impressive. So, long term, no. Short term, I don't know about Barrios, to be honest with you. A couple more. I got to bust out of here. John Curtis says the lack of consistency from the rotation, pen, and the clutch hitting will keep them from the postseason. All right. Your words, not mine, but I did say it out loud. Thanks for weighing in, John. I agree with you. I think that the Twins probably aren't a postseason team, but they're definitely making things interesting. I would have been asking that question a week ago. We would have all just agreed they're not going to the postseason. Now we're asking. So progress, baby steps. Corey says Dozier and Santana both on the opening day roster next year. Question mark. I don't know. We'll see. That's pretty good off-season fodder. I'll have, obviously, plenty of columns on the pros and cons of trading Irvin and the pros and cons of keeping and trading Dozier. Dave says, I hope so. So I think there are a lot of people in this room who would agree with you, Dave. That is it for me on this video. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Sorry I bled over into the 8th inning a little bit. Just wanted to get to all your questions. So if you're not already following me on Facebook, check it out. Facebook.com. I think it's just / Derek Wetmore MLB. And I'll be on the website later today. I'll have a 5 thoughts column either based off this game or just kind of like the recent run of the Twins, their last 7-8 games. And I'll be on the radio tomorrow. If you guys want more Twins stuff, Mackie and Judd on 1500 ESPN at 12:30. I'll be going on to talk some Twins. And then we're doing a podcast tomorrow. The Touch 'Em All podcast. The highly anticipated Touch 'Em All podcast, which you can find on iTunes. All right. That's enough self-promotion for me. I'm going to get out of here, watch the rest of this game. Enjoy, guys. Thanks for stopping by. I'll talk to you later.